LearnGerman.tips is a collaborative project in which my role was to take existing HTML pages and, very generally speaking, get them ready for the web. While originally the goal was to just finish a few things and clean up the code, it ended up a lot more involved. This really started with developing an identity for the site. This is the basic website that was given to me, and I very much liked the flow and typesetting as well as the color scheme, and we wanted to keep that intact. With the basic color and typesetting established, we didn't want the website to be dominated overbearingly by the German flag's colors or stark eagle imagery, so I took the opportunity to brand the site through a custom typeface. The original version of that typeface was drawn and completed in just a little under 24 hours, since there wasn't really any time in the project budgeted for it. But I felt strongly that a website that didn't use much original artwork as a whole needed a strong brand identity through a custom typeface. The original was set in Verdana, a very strong choice for a website about learning, because it is an easy-to-read, clear typeface. With little time, Verdana as a sort of spacing and feel guideline, I used the existing serif Palatino as a starting point to draw my own sans serif version from memory. It was really the ideal choice because it also runs very wide and is very legible through its unique shapes per letter. To save time, the capital letters, numbers, and punctuations were adapted from another one of my typefaces, Neue Mogobau. That typeface is a geometric typeface, and the contrast of the natural flow of the serif-derived font with the geometric shapes of Neue Mogobau really worked nicely, especially since the website uses all caps headlines, providing nice contrast without having to change the typeface or even the weights. While ready for the initial launch, the typeface has since been extensively redesigned, improved, and expanded, including a true italic weight, which we even use in the headline now. As another part of brand identity building, I drew cartoon characters, which originated from playing around with a few stock images. The final artwork is a vector graphic turned pen and paper drawing. The to-do list flow of the website lend itself to a sort of a post-it note navigation, which is also a vector graphic I drew in Illustrator. Together with the typeface, color scheme, and typography, it makes a strong brand and identity for LearnGerman.tips. CSS. I didn't do much cleaning up of the original CSS, but it did need some fixing. The code handed to me was written by someone just learning CSS, so my approach was to improve the flow of the HTML markup and overriding CSS through specificity if need be. Since the typography was solid, I touched only select elements needed to reflow the website, making only a few changes to the otherwise very beautiful typesetting. The original site was a traditional HTML site for desktop use, and it was up to me to implement the website to work dynamically for different screen sizes. Unlike frameworks like Bootstrap, I am using only two basic layouts, one for mobile and one for widescreens, but I'm making a few other queries to make smaller adjustments and to ensure that elements fit properly for all screen sizes. PHP. While not a true dynamic website that builds pages from information stored in databases, I still migrated the original individual pages website to PHP, building each website from individual building blocks, albeit with some code keeping up with which part of the website we are currently viewing. This makes it much easier to make changes, and we just need to update one file, for example, change a header, instead of several. I also implemented a little applet that shows the time in Germany, something the client wanted but was unable to write. Advertisements. The client had the idea of being able to display advertisements on the website, which are commonplace all over the web. I implemented this by adding Google AdSense and also Google Analytics. Because of this, we needed to make further additions to the content, such as writing a privacy policy. The dynamic nature of the website poses an interesting challenge for ads. Google AdSense does allow for relatively dynamic ads, and for the first version of the site, I spent quite a bit of time ensuring that the correct size ads would show up in the correct screen size. After the initial launch, the client wanted to make several changes to the website, especially since the content had expanded significantly, and we were not really happy with the compromise we ended up as a layout. Communicating via Google Docs, we tossed back and forth ideas with some basic mockups. We added additional pages, improved URL handling, and overall SEO friendliness. URL handling. Other than, say, my Juliet's Recipes website, for which I deliberately left the .php extension intact and used query attributes to identify, call, and build pages, I wanted to handle URLs in a more clean and SEO-friendly way. I am using htaccess to hide .php extensions and the index.php file, and then parse everything from the slash on forward and using it as an attribute to call and identify individual pages. Finishing touches. Since much of the website is a collection of resources, I suggested that we should mark external links clearly as such, and open them in new windows, so that the user would not leave LearnGerman.tips. I achieved this without any actual additions to the markup. The text marking the external link as such is done via CSS pseudo-classes, and I'm using JQuery to automatically add the target equals blank attribute to non-external links on the fly. Advertisements 2.0. Window and viewpoint resizing is not just something that happens when you resize a browser window on a computer, but in today's mobile world can occur even when you flip your device from portrait to landscape mode. Having learned from the difficulty of placing ads on a dynamic layout in the first version, to make the advertisements truly dynamic, I added a little JavaScript which, when the viewport size or orientation changes, automatically updates and redraws the ad, leaving the user without potentially ugly and distracting fragments.